This Sunday on Press Pass, President Trump tweets it's a good news thing for Ohio. The announcement coming this past week that the GM Lordstown plant has a potential buyer. Workhorse out of Cincinnati say they plan to build electric trucks rather. The sale requires an agreement with the UAW, and so far the union's response is not positive, saying they want GM to assign another General Motors product to the facility. So here with more is Ohio State Senator Sean O'Brien and Youngstown-Warren Regional Chamber President James Dignan. Thank you, both of you, for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big morning, and everyone's talking about this story this week across Ohio. Workhorse, only though a startup company, a lot of folks wondering if they're big enough in size to produce a good amount of vehicles. We don't really know what kind of volume they want to work with, but we were popping out thousands of Chevy Cruzes, the top selling vehicle for GM for years. Can we make up for the job losses?
Well, right now I think the situation's fluid. We're looking into some of those questions. We're going to be asking that of the CEO of Workhorse. I'm going to be meeting with him in Columbus in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so right now, you know, is GM going to be part of this going forward? So there's a lot of questions still out there.
Now, James, based on the numbers that this company's putting out and the companies that actually do depend on electric trucks, because there aren't as many as we would think, is there just too little skepticism right now with the sale, or do you want to find a way to just keep this plant open, keep jobs there? Because it's hard to know. We are in an evolving car market right now.
Well, I think it's all of those things. And as we talked about and had our discussion with GM when Dave Green and I were up there, is we want this plant put to full use, and we want to be part of making automobiles in the 21st century, and we want to be part of that next generation automobile. And we think that that is in the electric, hybrid, hydrogen, one of those low emission, no emission vehicles. And we have the workforce, we have the location, we have the facility to do that. And we're still hopeful that GM will remain a partner in some way, shape, or form here, perhaps even with Workhorse.
Oh, wow. Okay, so a lot of discussions going on behind the scenes. Who are some of the movers and shakers that maybe we don't know of that are really working on this project? Do you know anyone behind the scenes talking with GM, talking with Workhorse?
Well, I've talked with GM directly, so we've had many discussions with them. We've talked with our federal officials and state officials, Mike DeWine. I know the governor's been an integral part of this discussions, Lieutenant Governor. The state reps, Mike Ruley, so a bunch. We're all in on these discussions as well as with Workhorse. Okay,
so it's all hands on deck.
It is.
But one of the things that's not, though, it hinges on a few factors, including the UAW agreement and the contract. We know they're going to start talking about that, especially with the Postal Service, the contract coming up. A lot of this stemming from the president's initial tweet this week. Here's what Dave Green had to say, and then I want to get your reaction on the other end of this.
I've been experienced firsthand knowledge of what a president's tweet can do. It creates more questions, I think, sometimes than answers, which is, I think, is exactly what happened here. And until I have answers on how this is actually going to impact our membership and get some direction from our international UAW, it's hard to be excited about a presidential tweet.
I mean, how's this going to affect the membership here at home? What's your reaction to that?
Well, Dave's spot on that he has concerns, and he has to address those with his membership, and spot on. Plus, they have a negotiation coming up and a contract that ends this fall. Those are a lot of things that he has to deal with directly. A lot of his membership has had to pick up and move and leave our community. So all of these things play out together, and we still don't know. Hopefully, we can get some commitments from GM further identifying what the future might hold for the Lordstown plant and for all those UAW and the other supply chain employees.
We have asked and talked with them about keeping the UAW there, and it's my understanding they are going to still be part of the workforce as we move forward.
But would they be able to have access to the types of benefits?
It's too early to say, and that's all in the negotiations, so we don't know that.
That would be maybe the sticking point for a lot of the people that stay here hoping and holding out hope. Obviously, they want to keep those years under their belt. 1,600 jobs were lost at the GM plant. A total number of job losses around 2,500 since this plant was unallocated. Still not sure how many jobs Workhorse can produce, but it probably won't be close to that number. What about TJX? Are they bringing 1,000 with them? That's what we were reporting. Is that enough maybe then to make up for it? Or do we really need to find more companies? How do we recruit and recoup some of the businesses and the income and the tax revenue? How do we fix this? And is this going to be something you do in stages?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to do it holistically, and We've talked about before, TJX and GM, it's an apples and oranges kind of comparison. Both are important and both are a key part of how we're going to move our community forward. We have to continue growing that, and we have to work on replacing the jobs like Falcon and others. And we've done a good job, I think, the community in adapting and rolling with these wrinkles as we've seen them.
And we've been working still with TGX, been talking with them, just talked with them last week. They're still moving forward, everything's going there, so we're looking at probably 1,200 jobs.
Okay.
But it's, again, we're still all, this in conjunction with what we're doing with General Motors, trying to keep the pressure on them to keep. We want as many jobs, obviously, as we can get. So we're going to work as hard as we can to get that and to get the benefits like they had at the plant before.
What's the next step in this process then with Workhorse and trying to negotiate maybe a possible deal? Do we have to wait for the GM Lordstown contract talks to come up, or are you going to just continue and not really pay attention to that?
Well, I think those are still part of the discussion. They have to be.
So you have a meeting coming up,
So
though.
we have a meeting, but that's with Steve Burns with Workhorse, so we'll be talking with them, trying to get some of these questions that you have and many of our constituents have answered.
And do they need another contract for another vehicle? That's something that trucks.com, it's a publication, trade publication, was reporting. They need a big government contract. Do we think we could get some influence there?
I think there are two parts. One is the electric truck itself that they've been looking for the last couple of years for a production facility and moving that forward. They've been a little bit behind what their projections were, so they need that. Now, something the size and scale of the Lordstown facility, that's probably bigger than what they need just for that. And as one of the finalists for the Postal Service contract, that would be huge. $5 billion roughly contract to start producing right away.
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing that could help spur this and get it moving forward.
Yeah, give it a jump start, if you will.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks so much for coming in. You both have a lot of information, and I know it's a fluid thing, but we'll check back in with you if you agree to come back on Press Pass.
Great.
All right, great. Thank you so much for coming in this
Thanks,
morning.
Lindsay.
We're going to have much more on the show. We come back. Don't go away.